Hey guys, welcome back to Nagali Park. This is episode 6, and this is what we worked on last time. If you remember, we kind of finished out this little entry area. This is not necessarily the entry to the park. This is just the first thing that you kind of hit in the first area that has some rides and some attractions. The real entrance starts way back here. My park is going to follow the same kind of contours as NigloLand. Take a shot. And the whole entrance area is going to be about right here. In my spirit park, because I'm not going to say NigloLand, take a shot, they have a sort of like candy shop here and another kind of long drawn out path to get back to, you know, kind of this main little avenue. And so it kind of follows the park here. I will say that, you know, my park is not exactly like the park that I'm trying to emulate, because their curve ends up being a little bit, you know, shallower. But like other people have said, this is not supposed to be exact, and so we're going to deviate quite a bit from the real entrance to NigloLand. Take a shot. We're going to do something completely wild and different, and I actually went on Bronation and asked people, you know, what should my entrance be? And they sent back a whole bunch of really odd, weird, and mostly cool structures that just weren't going to fit. And then, of course, Kinderly gave me the idea of just making, what if the entrance was a garden? I was like, huh. First, I ignored his idea. I thought it was ridiculous, but the more I thought about it, and the more that people were posting these pictures of a little bit more of a modern entrance, it kind of made sense to go and try for something a little different. And so this episode, we're going to focus on this entrance area here. I have a feeling it's going to be split into two, just because this is such a large area. But what I have in my head, we'll see if we can actually make this happen, is an area that was, so the park had an entrance before, and it's going to be evident in the buildings around beyond the front gates. But in an attempt to kind of galvanize what the park is about and to create a new sort of attraction, they decided to go with a completely differently designed entrance. And so my vision is to have the gates themselves be a giant green roofed kind of hill mound, very Shire like sort of architecture. So, every time I look at European-styled parks, there is always this sense of, especially in the Efteling, there's this sense of organic craftsmanship, and that's what I'm going to attempt here. Even though the rest of the park is not going to follow that aesthetic, because the rest of the park really is not. It was built in a different time, and there would be no reason really to go back and change it. The rest of the park is very architectural, and it's going to remain that way. But here, I wanted to practice something a little more fantasy. So let's see how it goes. Okay, so here we are at the kind of the bottom of the map where I expect the entrance to be. I've even started working the terrain up a little bit, but you can see that I've got I got something here. It ain't much, but it's something, and you can kind of see what I'm going for here with all this organic wood kind of riveting around. I want this to have a really complex roof structure, which is, I don't even know why I'm doing this, because this is going to be stupidly difficult, because I'm going to have to basically set every shingle. So that'll be fun. But this is kind of what I had in mind, is this big arch, and if I take a look at, Archer? As a common kind of person, it is very, very much in human scale. And what I want the rest of this sort of thing to do is just it be a mound of green roof. And what is green roof? Well, so instead of having an impermeable surface like shingles or something like that, you have plants that then become the roof of your building. And what that does is it allows water to permeate in a little bit. It keeps the water from washing out or washing away. It ends up cooling the structure too. And so it's going to be sort of an example garden in this whole area. And that's what I think I'm going to go with this, is that the whole thing, the whole entry is like a sponsored or granted, like the park is. So here's looking ahead a little bit. The park is going to have a land that is dedicated to the preservation and the education of what is happening to the bees and other pollinators, because they are so integral to our environment, that because an entire land is dedicated to it, and it's going to be over here, right here, and in NigloLand, take a shot, that area would have been the farmland, which is next to Alpina Blitz, and it's the weird area with the big Ferris wheel and the stupid wild mouse and all that ugly stuff. So it's going to be one of the newer areas, and that's going to be actually in the park. And so what will happen over here as a sort of linkage to that is that this is going to be a big example garden attracting bees and other pollinators, and it's going to be sponsored by proven winners. And I have this idea to have, so the park had decided that it wasn't going to put advertisements out in the front of its kind of area, but once you get in the park, then you've got advertisements like going down the road here and stuff like that. So it'll be sponsored by Proven Winners, which is a pretty well-known plant company that sells a lot of really good. I mean, they're really strong. It's probably one of the better brands. But of course, there's got to be some commercialism. But the whole arch and this whole green thing was able to be built because of a grant, and so there will be like this high budget kind of area here, and then this will be the ticket window here, and maybe like some bathrooms or something like that over there. And eventually the budget's going to run out, but in the meantime, it's going to be very highly themed and quite whimsical, I think. So I've gotten a little further with my vision. Here is the green roof I was talking about. And so, yes, it's made of roses. Look past that. It's supposed to be made up of sedum, which is a sort of water, not thirsty at all. It's a water miser of a plant, and it has some of these interesting kind of colors in there. You'll get some of those kind of rusty oranges and definitely a lot of the purples. And so this whole thing, when you walk under it, is just a green roof. It's a hill. It's a garden that is going to go over like that, and it's going to be a garden right there, and then there'll be a structure right there. You can see I've started on my roof, and whew, yeah, I think at the moment it's already 325 objects. This roof is going to be really expensive, but oh well. And then the other thing that I worked out is NigloLand, take a shot, has buses, or at least a bus loop to get into the park, and then parking is way back here. So I wanted to include the bus loop because I think it's important. And you can see I still need to work on my terrain a bit, but we'll figure that out later. That's not for this episode. All right, we're a little bit further along here. You can see that I've started working on the inner tunnel a little bit. This is going to be difficult because this is a really custom shape. The arch where it starts is not where it ends, and so I have to bend these windows as walls into submission. That's going to be interesting. The bigger thing that I worked on was definitely the roof here. You can see that it's now at 770 pieces. Whew. And then I've also worked on a round structure. And I realized as I was making this, I have inadvertently made an oval for a roof, which is even harder than a circle. So what I ended up doing to kind of make the difference, I tried using some of these kind of windows as walls to create the round shape, but it just turned out too octagonal. So I've layered in a bunch of cylinders together to try and get the look going. It looks a little sparse right now, but I think once I add the poles, and these will all be ticket windows here, I think it's gonna turn out just fine. So figured I might as well add another bathroom to this area, and this one will be an intentional bathroom other than this guy over here, because I got a lot of comments about this. This is not an intentional bathroom. This is just because the game is... The peeps are incapable of traveling distances without having to hold their pee, and so eventually this is going to have an actual bathroom, but for now there's just this back here, which happened to be a pretty good space to put one. But heading back to this area, I've got the path kind of linked out so that when you come in to the park, you have this kind of open area, and it's going to be largely gardens. So a garden here, a garden on this hill here. There's a tower. I don't really know what the tower does, but it is in my Spirit Park, NigloLand. Take a shot. And then in here is where the budget's going to run out for this area. And so there's going to be an old school kind of Bavarian boxy structure here next to this incredibly curvilinear and custom structure. And that's just going to be kind of that dichotomy between where the ambition of the project kind of had to get constrained by the budget. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what I call jank. Like I said in the previous episode, there's always that feeling that it's not quite working until you start to add the details and stuff like that and really commit to the structure. This is what I wanted. I wanted a really curvilinear structure that felt like it was crafted by hand, and I think it's turning out great. Thank you. I think it was Hydro that made the drain pipe set. Super helpful. Wonderful set. I love it. I'm gonna be putting it everywhere, but right now I've got it as copper drain pipes that are running along the line here. I got my little bathroom set up, little nook in here. I'm gonna have a sign and stuff like that. And I figured it had to, like, the structure had to end somewhere, so I wanted to put another kind of round tower there, and that's how it's gonna kind of clean up. But being that it is a small park, and I did look at my my source material quite a bit, and NigloLand, take a shot, has a pretty much one gate running, at least in the street view. Now that of course could open up a little bit more as there are more people in the park, but I don't think it will need any more than 4 ticket windows. And I recently went, when I was in California, I went to the Aquarium of the Pacific in Long Beach, and they had this kind of built-in structure too as part of their ticket counter. And it was busy that day. There was thousands of people and children, and they were only running 2 windows. So I think 4 ticket windows is more than enough for this park, because it really is not supposed to... it's supposed to be a small little gem somewhere. It's not really supposed to attract a lot of people. I also added the gates in. You can see that I've used the Nagali green. That is a color that I'm going to be using for all of the staff uniforms, and pretty much all of the accents in this park are going to be that Nagali green. If you noticed in here, these canopies are painted Nagali green. The little bodega here is painted Nagali green. This gentleman has Nagali green shirts. The ride ops all are wearing Nagali green. So it's going to be a common color theme throughout this park. But I realized, like any park, if you need to evacuate a lot of people very quickly, you'll need to have multiple exits, and so this park will have some of those. Here's the main exit that you would take to get back to the parking lot, but there will be other ways to quickly evacuate the park in case that you would actually need to. We'll have exits on the back here, and possibly one with a crossing, or yeah, possibly one here just to get people out onto the road. Isn't it looking good? I really like what's happening here. Don't try and adjust your screens. This isn't some crazy post-production trick that I'm pulling on you. This is a real-life font, custom font in my park. It is not TMTK. You can see it is made of many tiny little pieces. It is incredible. I love it. I didn't make it. I have Dr. Kartoffelsalat to thank for this. He did an incredible job. He even got this really aggravatingly tiny font to work too. And as it comes back, you can just see how well it's working. I'm floored. I'm amazed. And it is just setting the scene so well. It is absolutely beautiful. I never really expected to have this font in the park, and I was going to contact Hydro to possibly make a TMTK object of it, but I mean, I am just amazed at the craftsmanship in getting this incredibly difficult font to register, and it's perfect. Wow. I've thanked him many times, but I will thank him publicly now. Thank you, Dr. Kartoffelsalat. You are sometimes a grumpy Gus, but this time you are an incredible hero. Moving on, the rest of this entrance is starting to come together. You can see I've got the ticket boards. Was not going to make custom graphics for that. No, we can do the old-fashioned sort of lines on a board type trick. The restrooms are looking pretty good. They've got their lighting. The roof is in. The little acorn tower is in. I've also started putting some mulch in, and this is all that, this is the cocoa piece. Very early on, we learned how to use this instead of like art shapes and stuff like that. And I still think it is one of the more useful pieces for this because it is recolorable, and it looks so much like red dyed bark. It's exactly what I was going for here. And so you can see I have a lot of beds to fill. I've started filling this bed in as if the green roof is like coming down and filling in here. And then there's a little outpost gate here for the person who's manning the exit here, with a rolling. So let me see. So this gate can roll back during operating hours, and a lot of people can leave at that point. This little area is definitely going to have a door and stuff like that, so you can actually get into it's kind of like a rest space or something like that. But it's a good way to just kind of cap off the rest of this entrance, which is turning out to be incredibly adorable. And I don't know if you guys are gonna like it or not. I expect to hear some outcries of some WTFs, and I don't know. I really like it, and it ain't changing. So you can say whatever you want. I will listen, and I will nod, and then I will tell you that it's not changing. Here's a little proof of concept that I was thinking of for Proven Winners' new ad campaign. I don't know if you saw this on Twitter, but it makes me laugh a lot to think that they would if it isn't our brand, it's probably dead. And then I expanded on the marketing campaign. So if it isn't Proven Winners, it's already dead. If it isn't Proven Winners, abandon all hope. If it isn't Proven Winners, don't even try. I really love the idea of just mean marketing for gardening equipment. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Nagali Park. Doesn't it look good? Oh, I think it looks so good. Let me get this back on. I finished the beds. I have basically made my own real life perennial garden as Nagali's entrance, and well, of course I love it because I love my perennial garden, but I just think it works so well. Like the idea of, coming into this park and, you're not really expecting, you're going for the roller coasters and stuff like that, but to be greeted with this beautiful design, this use of really smart and drought tolerant and water-wise perennials, then getting some information on it and stuff like that. Like you didn't go to a botanical gardens, but that's what you're entering here, basically. You are entering a garden that wants to teach you about, you know, why you should set up a green roof on your house, or why you should plant things that are native to your region, or why it's important to have pollinators in your garden, you know, stuff like that. And each one of kind of the areas has this little like marker to tell you. Now, like, I wanted to have like a little something on the marker, but I couldn't quite figure out how to do that. Perhaps if any TMTK wizards are listening, that would be a great option, because I do love the don't be a dick signs, but can't use them everywhere because they're legible. But if these plaques were just kind of designed in a way in which they kind of look like they have information, but they don't actually, you know, convey any real information, then I could plop these buddies all over. And so this kind of celebrates my concept of using roses for literally everything. It's ground cover, it's sagebrush, it's green roof. Like, it's supposed to be sedum. Like, roses can be anything. Like, I showed you that roses can be clouds in a dark ride. Like, they are so incredibly versatile, and I'm just going to keep saying it until you guys get tired of it. Which I think you guys already are. Ended up building a really kind of simple lamp system in here. I toyed with a few things. I toyed with something that was incredibly kind of fantasy, and I kept coming back to the simple, because if you can see here, this is where the old entrance basically ends, and where the kind of roundabout in the traffic circle begins. And so that's old entrance, and you can just imagine that is what was here. Now, this whole land has been cleared, a garden has been planted, some trees have been planted, but it's mostly, you know, it's mostly barren, so having big, bulky kind of lamps and stuff like that didn't really work with the scale. And so I ended up going really, really simplistic. And it's cool when you move them because it's the fire piece on the top, so... But I think it really works with the kind of scale that I'm trying to set in this park. If you just look at the people next to the buildings, it all really works well together, and nothing is really dominating. When you walk up towards the park, the sign is one of the first things that you see, but you're not intimidated by it. It's not massive. You pass by it and you don't give it a second thought again. Then you are greeted with the signboard, and the signboard tells you, you know, what rides are operating, or how much things are, or any other information right there. Then you go and get your ticket at the window. You can go to the bathroom or something like that, and then you just head through into the gates where you're off on your way. And you can head towards, you know, potential roller coasters that way, or you can head towards the train ride that way. It's just it's non-confrontational. It's supposed to be very curvilinear. It's supposed to make you feel like you just kind of float around this space. It is meant to feel very welcoming. And a way to do that is definitely to get some hanging baskets going in there. Just get a little life in this area and make it feel like it is well lived in and well cared for. You may be thinking how I actually got things to look the way they do, because, you know, we have a limited palette on how many plants we actually do have. And it really does come down to color. If you're experimental in your color, you can make a lot of things look like the thing that they're supposed to be without them actually being the thing that they are. So, for instance, this right here, even though it's a bunch of daffodils, basically, I've made them to look like a black-eyed Susan, which is a perennial that grows around here, because all I did was have yellow petals with a kind of brownish center. And so from a distance, it works. It looks like Black-Eyed Susan. Same thing with the roses. The roses are all painted this kind of sagey gray, and there's some, you know, trees thrown in there. But from a distance, you don't see that they're roses. So if you can really get a hold of your color and your use of color, and you kind of squint your eyes a little bit and you don't look too hard at the details, you can get gardens that look like their realistic counterparts. Like, I took things out of my garden because I had a lot of yellow daisies in my garden. I have a lot of blue running through. I have this really shock of blue that is supposed to be like a globe thistle. And of course, I don't have globe thistle in the game, but I can make things that look like it from a distance. And so when you take the whole experience in, you don't really look for all the detail. It blends really well. It looks like it's supposed to be. Sometimes you have to think less about what the thing is and more about what the thing could be or what you could turn it into. And then if we jump in at night, we have a fairly mundane kind of lighting scheme. It's not really meant to be more than it is. There is some green kind of coming off of the boards there, and some green kind of falling off there. It's really it's the most impressive part of the lighting. The rest of it is just very plainly lit with uplights and just some very kind of warm fillers. There's a little bit of blue in the gardens, but it's not meant to be much more than it is. The restroom's a little bit brighter just because it's the restroom and it should be. But yeah, nothing to really write home about. It is meant to be as subtle as possible. There's a little bit of kind of blue moonlighting in the gardens, but a little bit on the roofs there too, but not much. But honestly, isn't that what you would want this kind of park to have? You wouldn't want it to have really fancy, box lighting and a bunch of spotlighting and stuff like that. You want it to be fairly subdued because that is what this park is. And even though this breaks conventions, in terms of my spirit park and whatnot, I think it works. I really do. I think it is unique enough to be legitimate for a park. I don't think it's too far out of budget. I think it is. I think this would have been where a lot of the money went, is to try and keep this green roof, this big old arch alive. And that's what I think the park is. I mean, this park, in the lore, wanted to create a drought-tolerant garden that didn't look super modern or anything like that. They still wanted it to feel like a fantasy kind of area, and so that's where all the kind of wonky structures and all the wood and all the stucco kind of come in. But it is still a display garden for what they wanted, and I don't think it's out of the bounds of possibility. I think it is a little improbable that a park like this would have an entrance like this without some sort of major cash boost or something like that. But hey, we got proven winners that's advertising our park, so we should be getting a lot of money for this, and they paid for all the plants, so that's why it looks the way it does. All in all, I'm really happy with the way this entrance came out. It's not done. I mean, obviously, if I turn around, I stopped working on the roof, and the budget's gonna run out on this park. There isn't going to be. It's not gonna be pretty from the backside, but you can't see it anyway. So when you're in this kind of ground view, you can't see the backside. There'll be a building here. There'll be something else to kind of block your view here, and so on the inside, it's just going to be kind of flat roofs and some walls to keep the illusion that this roof continues down like that. But no, this is really not going to be much more than this in terms of the fantasy kind of kick. There'll be some kind of cheap pavilion structures here because that's what the park's entrance was originally, and that's what NigloLand, take a shot, has as its park entrance as well. So next episode, we will definitely work on kind of cleaning this up, making sure that the boundaries of the park, especially right here, look good. I may hold off on this until I can properly smooth the terrain. It looks terrible. It's going to take a while to smooth out this freaking terrain. If only we had a brush that could average out the heights, but we don't. So we'll work on this area. This will be a big garden area, again, kind of foresty there. There's a tower. I'm not sure what it does, but I'm going to replicate it from my park, my spirit park, I mean. There is a candy shop down here called Ogre Treats or something like that, that we're going to push up here, and that's going to be part of this kind of area And then across the way starts a path that gets you to the other side of the park without having to go all the way around. And then this side takes you down where we have always been. Takes you down into the whole kind of plaza area that we are going to call, because Dr. Kartoffelsalat actually gave me this idea, and I think it's brilliant. We're going to call it the small street, or le petit rue. Or La Rue Petite. And then the snack shop is going to be Le Petit Snack or something like that. And then this one is going to be Le Petit Gifts. And all the shops in this area are all going to be Le Petit. And I may even call the train Le Petit train or whatever like that. I'm going to keep the Skyride as Bird's Eye because I think that's cool. But yeah. That is what we're gonna do in this area. So he may make some signs for me. He was it was pretty amazing how well he was able to make this sign, and it didn't really take a whole lot of pieces. 65, 78. Well, it took a lot of pieces, but it's worth it. It's awesome. I love it. If you liked what you saw today, you know what to do. I hope you join me for the next episode. If you have grievances about what I'm doing with this park, you can't change it that much, it's not gonna work, please tell me in the comments. I really do read all your comments. I take them all to heart. I kind of enjoy it when you guys are dicks. So if you want to be, inappropriate, offensive, if you want to be positive, if you want to be thankful, if you want to be whatever, you just go do you, and I'll be me. So until next time, see you later, guys. Bye.